It's Matt Salmon in for KTAR's Mike Broomhead, and I've got Kyrsten Sinema on the line. Kyrsten, how you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you, Matt?
Swell. I'm doing great. And everybody wants to know, what are you up to?
Oh, gosh, I'm having so much fun.
I figured you would.
Yeah.
There is a life after Washington.
Oh, it's a wonderful life, actually. It's a wonderful life. I'm doing a lot of really fun projects, one of which, of course, is, well, actually, two big ones in Arizona. One is the new Arizona Business Roundtable that you've probably heard about. You know,
Right.
Arizona was the largest state in the country that didn't have a statewide business roundtable. So there wasn't a collective of CEOs and executives who were focused on kind of the big picture issues for the future of the state's economic outlook. And when I announced I was retiring, a couple CEOs approached me and said, "Hey, would you be willing to consider putting something together?" And I said, "Absolutely." And so that's one big project I'm working on. And as you probably know, Matt, probably 6 weeks ago, I launched a new center at Arizona State University.
It's pretty exciting.
Yeah, it's very exciting. It's called the Skill Center, the Spark Center for Innovation and Learning. And I designed it to help develop AI tools, so bots, agents, et cetera, to help identify and then provide assistance for neurodivergent learners for lifelong learning. So kids with ADHD or autism or dyslexia, helping do early diagnosis and early intervention, and then helping with things like how to navigate school and life skills, and really just help these students navigate the system in a way that works for them, because we know the traditional school system doesn't work for all kids. I mean, you and I have seen that.
Absolutely. And God bless you for that. This is an exciting program. Can you tell us a little bit about Coinbase?
Oh, yeah. So one of the projects I'm working on is I'm an advisor to Coinbase, which is kind of the premier big company in the Bitcoin space. And as you know, when I was serving in the House, I launched the Crypto Caucus and
Right.
launched a similar one when I got to the United States Senate. Worked a lot in the last year and a half or so on legislation that would create a stable coin, which basically we also worked on an issue called market structure. But basically what we're trying to do is create some rules of the road and guardrails so that individuals who want to engage in, digital commerce and utilize digital assets can do so knowing that they are safe and protected, and that the currency is pegged to the U.S. dollar. So it creates more stability. I'm really excited about crypto because it allows individuals to really maintain control over their financial choices, right? Real opportunity for financial freedom, which of course I think is important to all Arizonans.
Absolutely. And it's something that everybody's kind of watching right now, especially, is there kind of an inverse relationship to the dollar and the crypto, or not necessarily?
Well, right now there's not any kind of stable relationship because crypto isn't pegged to any currency.
Mm-hmm.
But the legislation that the Senate is considering as soon as next week, that legislation is called stablecoin legislation. So basically what it would do is it would peg cryptocurrency to the U.S. dollar, which would create more stability, less volatility, and just make it easier for folks who are trading or who are using it as their primary or even a supplementary form of currency.
Do you like the bill?
I do.
Good.
I've been working on this for a couple of years now, and we're in a place where industry and folks from both political parties have aligned. It's interesting because this is not a partisan issue.
No,
right?
not at all. Not at all.
Yeah. The divide in Congress is less about party and more about age and ideology, honestly. So you see folks who are, a little bit younger, a little bit more tech forward, innovative, really leaning in to crypto. And then the folks who are kind of concerned or wary about it, I think that comes from, maybe a lack of understanding or fear about digital currency.
Absolutely. Well, one of the other questions has been burning on me. Have you gotten any kind of an engraved apology from some of your detractors about the fact that you kept the filibuster around?
No, but I'll tell you what, Matt. I literally got a call this morning from a former colleague, a Senate Democrat. This morning got a call, and the person said, "Yeah, I'm calling because we're upset. The Senate Republicans are considering moving forward on a congressional a CRA, which is basically a vote that you take to kind of overturn something that the previous administration did. It's very common, right? Especially in the early months of a new administration. So a Senate Democrat literally called me this morning, and he was like, "Are you tracking that the Senate Republicans might be voting on the CRA, and they might make a decision to ignore the parliamentarians' advice? And we're concerned because we think this is similar to undoing the filibustering. Would you be willing to help?" And I literally said, "Absolutely not, buddy."
Good for you.
Let's not forget that you actually voted to get rid of the filibuster in January of 2022. And at the time, I mentioned to you and to all of my colleagues at the time that was a poor decision that would come back and you would regret it. And here we are.
It's interesting to me, Kyrsten, because, long-range planning doesn't seem to exist in either party anymore. It's all about instant gratification. And right now, with what's going on with executive orders and some of the things that really Congress should be engaged in, do you get the sense that Congress is actually becoming more and more irrelevant?
Well, that you and I have talked about this for years when we served together back in the House, and the phenomenon of Congress choosing to abdicate its role and responsibility has been getting worse since Reagan won. And what we know is that nature abhors a vacuum, and so if Congress chooses not to do its job, the administration absolutely, every administration, regardless of party, will step in and take that power. They will.
Well, and presidents from both parties have been doing it for over 100 years.
Yes. Well, and it really stepped up in Reagan 1 and has just gotten more and more intense since then. And I don't see that changing unless Congress chooses to reassert its authority. It doesn't appear that they're going to do that. Now, that being said, everyone's always upset when the administration of the other party takes action that they don't like.
Right.
And it's because they just don't like the outcome. But they all forget that the process is the same for both. And so, again, it's the hypocrisy that I find frustrating. But I got to tell you, some of the things that this administration is doing from an administrative perspective are really exciting. I mean, the MAHA stuff that you're seeing come out of HHS in banning dyes, trying to get rid of
it's needed to be done for a long time
in our food. Oh, it's incredible.
Right.
And what I find surprising is that, not surprising, but what I find disappointing is that there's continued partisan backlash. We should all agree that harmful dyes in our food is bad. We should all agree that petroleum products in our food is bad. And ultra-processed foods are bad. They're so bad for your body.
They're so bad for your body. In fact, I read a really great book called Eating to Beat Disease. And it was a doctor that actually survived. He had glioblastoma, which is what killed Senator McCain. And normally that's a death sentence within, a year to 2 years. And this doctor actually lived with it for 22 years. And a lot of it was, the exercise regime and the eating that he changed. And he basically said, that's what saved my life.
Yeah. I mean, it's incredible, right? I mean, I think there's growing recognition across our country about the importance of what you put into your body.
Exactly.
And I think it's one of the most exciting things about this administration. I actually was in Washington, D.C. yesterday and had an opportunity to meet with Dr. Oz and his team, and really doing some exciting work with RFK Jr. and his team. And I got to be honest, I think there's real continued excitement and opportunity about the MAHA movement and the ability that we have as Americans to change the way that we are really interacting with industries that create our food and our medicines, and our supplements, et cetera, to think more strategically and holistically about what we want to consume, what we want to put into our bodies.
Absolutely.
And the huge difference it makes in our lives.
Well, Kyrsten, as always, it is a thrill to have you on the line, and I know you have a hard stop, so I'm going to let you go, but I really appreciate your friendship more than anything, but I also appreciate the fact that you focus on issues and not party, and I love that about you. You've been a blessing for Arizona and the country, and God bless you for your service.
Thanks for watching the Mike Broomhead Show. Tap to watch and listen to the new season of Amazing Arizonans, a KTAR News podcast. You can also click the button in the middle to subscribe.